Hello, I'm Mohammed Tariq, and we are here for certain part of discussion as it is scheduled for history optional, right? So my other colleague would join subsequently, and you all can ask questions, whatever related to history optional, why you should take it, what we are offering. So what I have done to make it easier for you, I have written certain points so that you should have clarity. The two parts of my talk here is that first part is that why history is so consistent compared to say many other subjects. Of course, you have every right to choose all whatever subjects you have, but history is consistent not only in post-independent India, even in British period. Since I take modern history, and as you know, Lord Cornwallis had introduced civil services in India. So in those days, the most popular subject was history till 1980s. And I met many secretaries and DGP level, and at least one paper they had history. So it has a record of continuity from colonial period to post-independent period. Of course, there are many more subjects which had been popular at certain point of time, but history had maintained, as I said in my language, Rahul Dravid style, consistency called as wall in cricket, right? So that is the first interesting part since British era. The second part of history is that the syllabus of history is very well defined. Why? The research of history has by and large been done in British period, post-independent period. There are certain subjects like public administration is very new, like economics is very dynamic. So it is changing. IR is very dynamic. It is changing. But in history, most of the things are well set. And most of the syllabus in your case is till 1960s. Few like world history would come till 1980s and 90s, like fall of USSR, but that is only 2 to 3% of the portion. Your 98% portion is till 1960s. That means it is well set, well researched, so predictability is very high in this subject compared to many other subjects. Third part, the books and materials are readily available because plenty of research material, study materials have been prepared. So you would never have a dearth of any research material or study material. So the teachers have read books and research papers. You would read their notes and their handouts, and of course the classes. Then most theories of history like why partition, why the decline of Mauryans or the Mughals, are you getting what were the causes of World War I and II, what industrial revolution brought changes, why it happened in England first, has been set. So the debate portion is already by and large agreeable to most scholars, whereas in some other subjects what has happened, it is emerging. Whereas in history, the dust has been settled. Of course, for your level, at the very highest level, PhD level, post graduation level, they are still debating. But for graduation level and civil services level, the dust has been settled. So you do not have to be worried about what is going at academic level in this subject. Then another advantage of history is that it is easier to break in points and subpoints. For instance, what were the causes for the revolt of 1857? What were the consequences of partition of India? What led to drain of wealth? You can get in classes and in our notes those points in breaks, and each points would have few paras, few lines. So it becomes easier for a student to remember. Next is, it is connected, history is connected with culture. It is connected with cinema, with literature, with folklores, with teleseries, with your day-to-day life. Now, how it is connected? So, if you travel in Delhi, there are a lot of historical monuments. The language which you speak, whether Hindi, Bangla, has its history, whether it goes to Aryan period or in 11th, 12th century. The poetry which you read has its own history. The music which you have, that which music is influenced by Persian, Arabic or Western music. So this is like dress which you are wearing. This dress is like trousers, this button is shakas, kushanas, right? The leather shoes which some of you are wearing were brought by shakas and kushanas. So everything which is in our day to day life, the food which you have, for instance, you might have tasted biryani, came from Iran. Pizza, you all know, which country? Italy. Burger, hamburger, Germans. I hope you're getting all your noodles, Chinese. So it is culture, food and history connected. So what is the advantage? When you read history, it looks like you're living with that one. So that is one great advantage in history, that it would never look like alien subject, what is called अजनबी सा नहीं लगेगा ये सब्जेक्ट को पढ़ते हुए. कुछ सब्जेक्ट को लगता है, मुझे खुद लगता है, बट while reading history you would feel you know it something. Like Romila Thapar wrote about Ramayana, that no Indian reads Ramayana for the first time, which means you already know some characters, some stories of Ramayana. At whatever age you read, you know it. Similarly, no Indians would be ignorant about certain part of ancient history, medieval history or modern history. They may not know much, but they heard about Chanakya, about Arthashastra, about Megasthenes, about Kalinga War, about Panipat, about Plassey. So when you read it, you would get a sense that you know it, and that would give you a boost to study. And that is what the point, that you may or may not know the details, but once you read history, because it is connected with our culture, you would get some acquaintance. Next interesting part of history is that it is connected with region. Like why Northwest is mostly have seen maximum violence. Why not Kerala? Because all the attacks took place from Northwest. Shakas, Kushanas, Hunas, Arabs, Mongols, Mughals, Turks, Uzbek, Afghans, all these attacks came. So that region is very volatile. So how Northeast is very disturbed, because again there is a geography. So how geography shapes the destination, the destiny of history, that is how history is going to be interesting for you, right? Then why religion and nationalism evokes maximum emotions, why people fought in the name of religion and nationalism. If you just see Iran conflict, in Iran many scholars says both nationalism and religion has made that conflict very intense, and certain group of Jews who call as Greater Israel, right, and certain groups of Americans who call it Christian and white race. So religion and nationalism when are mixed makes a deadly combination. So most of the conflicts in human history in the last 400 years had been based on these two ideologies. So why it happens, history would give you a better answer, right? Then how history helps in essay paper. At least one essay you can get it from history. Now when I say history, I mean the ideologies, the thoughts of Buddha, Mahavira, Mahatma Gandhi, Tagore, Vivekanand. Sometimes they ask directly and sometimes they ask what is found in literature, but you might have read in certain part of history. Paper 4 is also connected with certain portion of history, like they have already asked on Gandhi, on Tagore, on Vivekanand, on Kabir, on Nanak. These are all part of history, either ancient history, medieval history or modern history. So history would help you to crack prelims also. 20 question on an average they ask from history, and if you're good in history, then even if you're not so good in some other papers, you can score 90 plus out of 200 marks, and that is for sure shot whatever your category, right? In interview, history helps a lot because at least 5 to 7 minutes out of 30 minutes they do talk about certain portion of history, whether modern, medieval or ancient, or certain characters like Gandhi or your own favorite character, and that would help you to understand. One of the greatest advantage of reading history is that your intellectual prowess, your thinking ability, your analytical ability, and your thinking like a bird's view, which is called 360-degree thinking, actually becomes much broader. That is one advantage of history. So when you would write paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, essay, you would find the impact of your historical knowledge as you can quickly connect. So it is not to be seen only 300 marks for 500 marks for optional, but it has to be seen how it is going to be impacting your general studies, your essay and your interview. So directly you can get 260, 280, 300 in history. Indirectly it is going to help you in paper 2, paper 3, paper 4, essay and interview. So it would resonate in multiple papers which may not be visible. But what I know that many my students, our students who have cleared this exam, and they did very well in essay and in general studies and in interview with history optional. That is what one advantage, right? Then what you are going to get at Vajiram. So the first thing is that we have a very organized and structured lectures by 4 of us, and each one have their own section. In paper 1, 2 faculty, paper 2, 2 faculty. So what happens that each of us has worked in our area and we have made our own notes, our own handouts. So what you would get, A, diversity, and B, depth. And that is not easy if suppose had I taught all history, because I did it somewhere in university also, but I found very difficult, though it was not a justice to students actually, but sometimes you have to do it because in college or university they may not have faculty enough, so they push you that you teach this also, that also. And I am sure whatever school and college you came, sometime you saw that a person who is originally a teacher of X subject and also taking your Y subject, but you might not have realized at that time that the depth would be missing. So here, because of the 4 gentlemen who are taking your classes, they would bring your the depth and variety, right? Then handouts and the notes which we have ourselves prepared, and we are keeping it updating every periodically, that would be unique. Unique in the sense that in the market there are a lot of ordinary materials, copy paste, copy paste. So you may not know what is good, what is bad, what is ugly. But when it comes from the faculty themselves, then we make sure that factually everything is correct. The interpretation is of certain standard as per the UPSC standard, and that is what it would be a very unique combination between classes and handouts. Next important thing which we do is test series. Each faculty conduct their own tests according to UPSC standard, and we also discuss PYQs, so that you understand that how to decode a question, because sometimes you read a question but you may not understand what is the demand of the question. So that exactly our teachers with the help of all questions would help, so that once you have say prepared 2 years question in the classes, you can understand the last 4-year questions, that what does it mean that both Plassey and Buxar were fought by the British, but why Plassey is more important than Buxar, or Buxar is more important than Plassey, which one you think is more important? This was a question asked. Both Hyder and Tipu were important rulers, but why Tipu is more important than Hyder? Again you have to understand, British brought lot of negative things, but they also brought lot of positive things, railways, education, modern institutions. So how would you justify that British rule was completely bad? Now this kind of nuances in the questions which they ask, like once they asked that without Mahatma Gandhi, freedom struggle of India could have been somewhat different. So what element Gandhi brought which other leaders could not bring? This you would get more in classes to understand it, which is not possible even if you study on your own, because what I know through history honors and post graduation, that the professors who taught us some of those ideas are still in my mind. I had that note for a very long time to keep it revising, so that the essence of a question should not be missed, and that is what you would get, I hope, in next few months, right? Then another very important thing which you would learn at Vajiram, your writing skill. That is one of the most important things. So initially we all do mistakes. So when you start writing, you may write ordinary, then you would write better and then better. Now suppose you have shown 2-3 notes to each of us. Each notes have say 10 questions, 12 questions. So you have now 60-70 questions already got checked by 4 faculty. So you know the standard, you know what is called right, what is called wrong, whether it is factual and conceptual, whether it is the structure, and whether sometime in expression also that you knew but you didn't know how to tell it. This is a skill which you hopefully would learn very soon. Another very important part in civil service, your highs and lows would keep coming. I hope you know that. Sometimes you feel very energetic, sometimes you feel very low, and this is where the teacher's role becomes very important. So we all help how to keep you motivated, because motivation is very important. If you are motivated, you can wake up till 2 a.m. If not, you cannot even study in the morning. I hope you have gone through this process, and my own understanding is no one can motivate better than your parents and your teachers. All others can be conditional, but these two people are not your competitors, and since they always see their own success through your success, so they ensure that once you are enrolled, you succeed. So what is the tradition here at Vajiram, that once you are a student, you remain a student even if your course is over, and we are here to help you through classes, through outside the classes, through mail, through WhatsApp, through phone, as every serious students are regularly in touch with all faculty members. And as a GS candidate, you might have seen some students are regularly talking, but these talks, what we call sideway talks, कि sometime टेबल पे बात नहीं होती है, जो साइड वे पे कॉफ़ी पे बात हो जाती है, जैसे ईरान अमेरिका में कुछ लोग कह रहे हैं कि अभी साइड वे टॉक हो रहा है, और वो हो सकता है वही कंस्ट्रक्टिव हो और फॉर्मल में ना हो. So sometimes some of the questions you may not ask in class, but you can ask nearby stairs or nearby lift, and that can be game changer. This I have seen with many of my students, that sometime one line they said it, and that can be very motivating, very influential, right? So I wish you all the best, and whatever questions you have, I will come again with all my colleagues. So my another colleague is coming, and he would help you to make you understand certain part of medieval and world history, right? Thank you very much. Take care.
So good evening to all of you. I'll be taking modern world history, and I'm a part of the team consisting of 4 of the faculties who also take the GS in the same areas. So for some of you who are a part of the GS program, we are a known faculty, and for those who are not, you will come to know more. Now, Tariq sir has already discussed about the benefits of history optional. I would not like to repeat that. I would like to add to few aspects of our program. What are our course offerings? Fine. Then Praveen sir will take over and discuss at length. Uh, maybe I'll give you a brief idea about how to approach modern world history also. And then once you start the course, you will know everything about it. Now, I'll take the questions also, so you can keep on putting your questions, and once whatever I have to say, I'll say, and then maybe we can collectively also address the questions. Now, the program offerings is such that we'll be having classes for around 6 months, fine. On an average means daily one class with no breaks. The idea is to have a sense of continuity also, and we believe that history, the subject, the nature of the subject is also about continuity and change. So there should be, this theme should also get reflected in the nature of the program also. Then apart from that, the pedagogy aspect. So in this class, in our course, we focus on a number of aspects related to teaching history or instructing history, I would say. One is that in history, you must understand the narration, the story or the background in which the historical events are unfolding. And that is very, very important, because even Yuval Noah Harari has written that the history of mankind is nothing but the history of stories. So we don't believe just directly on jumping to historiography or to bombard the class with facts, but we want to take it easy so that you first understand the story, whatever has happened, whether it is ancient India, medieval India, modern world. And once that part happens, then the second aspect is interpretation. So if you see the nature of the subject and what is our pedagogy, all of us follow the same approach. That one, all of us believe in developing the narrative, because without developing the narrative, it is very, very important. Narrative, one, it becomes easier for you to understand any part. If you are studying about Ashok, if you are studying about Adolf Hitler, if you are studying about Joseph Stalin, if you are studying about Mao, although it may not be asked, the syllabus or the PYQs do not warrant it explicitly, but we understand that once you understand the story, because we want to make it palatable for everybody, not only for those who come from history background, but for those who are from non-history background but have developed an interest and can definitely do very well. In fact, this year has been a very good year for history optional, when, to the best of my knowledge, I am sure that there will be more students, but to the best of my knowledge, there have been 6 students in top 100. Fine. So history is not a low scoring optional. History is not a subject which, if you have interest in, will not be rewarding. So that is not the case. The important aspect is that you must know how to learn the subject, how to manage it, and most importantly, how to translate that understanding and knowledge into answer writing. That is very, very important. So that is what I was saying, that we start with the narrative, then obviously the interpretation aspect, because any development can have multiple interpretation. Agreed? If you remember, or at least for those people who have heard about E.H. Carr, have you heard about E.H. Carr? If not, I will tell you. E.H. Carr is a prominent historian who has written a book, What is History? And in that book, E.H. Carr says that history is nothing but an interaction between historian and facts. Means any development can be interpreted in multiple ways. So that is where we do that. Once we understand and explain an incident or a development, and then we want you to think, that is where the subject gets interesting. The general myth is that history is all about narration and facts. No, this is just the, you can say, the basic structure or the foundation, and from here the interpretation is there. Interpretation can give rise to historiography. Means, for example, just an example, was Hitler responsible for the outbreak of Second World War? That has been a question which has been asked in GS also, agreed? Now, to answer this question, was Hitler responsible for the outbreak of Second World War, the first thing you should know that after Hitler became the chancellor, to the outbreak of the Second World War, what were the major steps taken by Hitler? You must know that. You are not required to remember, but you must know roughly, okay, in 1933, he became the chancellor, he attended the League of Nations based World Disarmament Conference, then in 1934 he signed. So you don't have to remember everything, but you must roughly have an idea. Then what happened in the Munich conference, agreed? So it's like a story, it's like a script. Once you have understood the script, then we want you to think. Then what we do is that in the class we tell people that okay, let us interpret, because any incident, any development can be seen in multiple ways. Marxists view historical events from the perspective of class struggle, agreed? Rankians, they just see it as it has happened, agreed? Or Annales school, they look at the larger perspective of history. So that is where it becomes interesting. और ये part कोई भूलता नहीं है. Let me tell you this. This is more important. You may not be required to remember the name of historians, but what the commission, what the UPSC expects from you, that you must have a historical understanding of it. You may not need to require the historical knowledge. Everything, so many things have happened, you are not required. So ये हम बताते हैं. The third aspect is after interpretation or along with interpretation, you must understand the multiple dimensions of it. For example, when we discuss industrial revolution, so while discussing industrial revolution, we start with okay, what were the major interventions that happened at the production level? Possibly आपको 3-4 inventions भी याद करा देंगे, ठीक है, because we need to know certain facts, the whatever has actually happened. But then the story actually begins from here. People think that the entire history revolves around this, but no. Then we see the social dimension of industrial revolution, something that people in sociology also study. Rise of feminist movement, agreed? Then you understand the ecological, psychological dimension of it. Similarly, in ancient India also, Praveen sir will tell you that every topic once understood, once you start with the interpretation, you also try to understand the dimensions of it. Ashokan history, sir will teach the multiple dimensions of Ashok. Because अगर आपने ये दोनों कर लिया, then answer writing becomes very easy. You will be able to generate points. Agreed? And then on the basis of all this interpretation, dimension and narration, finally we see is your understanding. This is something that is gold dust, which is very, very important for all of us to have. So that at the end of the entire chapter or at the end of any section, you must have a simple conclusion that okay, from this chapter I have learned this. Something that will remain with you all your life. अगर आपसे पूछा जाए, what do you learn, how according to you ideas of Mahatma Gandhi, Gautam Buddha, Akbar, agreed, John Locke is relevant in the contemporary times, you may not have to remember, you don't need to remember all the major writings, but you must understand the simple story. और ये बहुत जरूरी है. So we start with step 1, 2, 3 and finally is this. So this is what I was saying, that we are very clear about our pedagogy, all 4 of us, that we don't want to make it complicated. We want to make it gradual but to the point so that it becomes easy. Everybody has done a lot of research, but we want only that much of history to you so that you can enjoy it and use it. And yes, one of you has asked that it is hard to revise. No, it is not hard to revise. It is hard to revise when you do not know which part is important and to focus. If you think that you have to remember and recall everything, then obviously it is a difficult piece of cake. But once you have covered, you have done PYQs, you will know, okay, for example, there is a chapter that is French Revolution. In French Revolution, from 5th May 1789 to 18th November 1799, when Napoleon emerged, so many events happened. But gradually, as you will go through the PYQs, you will realize you don't have to remember everything. You are not here to reproduce the French Revolution in the exam. You are to understand, to develop, to have an understanding of the major developments, interpretation and the dimensions. So then होगा क्या कि एक बार आपके notes बनेंगे इतने मोटे, and then what you will do at the end of every chapter you will start, or in the chapter you will start highlighting what is important. You have done the PYQs, so now you will realize that that entire 600 can be reduced to 80 pages. Why history appears to be bulky? Yes, because narration is there. In other optionals, possibly the element of narration may be not as much here. यहाँ पे हमको सारा background बताना है. When Praveen sir has to teach Ashok, he will have to tell you about the background of Ashok. Agreed. So when you present something in the form of a story, then go through the dimensional approach and then interpretation, obviously it will look like bulky. But at the end, you are not required to remember all of this. इस बात को समझ लीजिए. And yes, GS and optional, one person is asking, GS and optional, they are overlapping. In fact, we tell our students that you don't have to prepare for GS once you are preparing for optional. Anyways, I am just telling you, it's a logical thing that anyways, if you prepare only GS history, you have to devote at least 2.5 months. So 2.5 महीने तो आप वैसे ही करते हैं. So please figure that out. That is very simple. Agreed. Now, the second aspect, which is very important and I had to announce, is the sources. Tariq sir has already covered, so I will not say much on that. Sources, our class notes are, I can say with a lot of conviction on behalf of all my fellow faculties, are one-stop solution, because see, there is no end to resources. We ensure that in class it is an exhausting exercise, it is baptism by fire, but we ensure that everyone writes what is important, revises it again and again, so that you don't have to refer to books. That is why sometimes we try to make it so simpler, so that you don't have to go and read any other book. That is the objective. So everything will be covered in the class notes, and yes, for referral, because you would want for referral, then handouts are also shared, handouts or booklets are shared. But the idea is that if you cover the class notes, I can vouch, you don't have to do anything else, because we want you to develop an understanding and to quickly go to answer writing. Agreed? Third part, which is very, very important, and this is something that we are introducing for the first time. Let me tell you that this time what we will do is that once your course gets over, your foundation course gets over, this time we will be giving you a daily answer writing program for the next 2-3 months. The idea is that we have also realized collectively that during the classroom time, people may not get time to write more. But we want that once the course gets over, you don't wait for your prelims results to come out, but to keep writing. So we will announce this, but we will have a daily answer writing program. In which a detailed schedule will be shared with you of all the 4 areas, and the faculties will help you so that on a daily basis 2 questions you write, you get it checked, and so that you make an incremental improvement. So not only it is about 6 months, even after that we want, and it will be for all the programs from now on. Daily answer writing program will be there, and all our fellow faculties, we will be ensuring that you write on a daily basis along with whatever revision you are doing. Agreed? and fourth is the mains test series. So this is every year it happens for optional, that people who appear for mains, we offer them a mains test series program. So the idea is, why I wanted you to understand that we will be ensuring and we want to work with you till you are in that list. Agreed? That is the end to end which I had to share on behalf of my team. Okay. What about prelims? So again, as I said, that this is a mains program, but yes, we will be glad. I don't take part of prelims, so I would not say, but yes, I can say for all my fellow faculties that they do help every student. For those of you who are from GS, you might know that they do help everyone to prepare for prelims also. So first part which I had to say briefly was the nature of the program. Agreed? The nature of the program will be such that from now on till the time you get selected, we will be with you, working with you in different capacities. Agreed? So we have a designed program for every level. Now foundation, then daily answer writing, and then we will have the mains test series. Agreed? No worries about that. Now briefly let me tell you something about world history also, because I am taking that part. Now modern world history can be studied in multiple ways. Agreed? Means we study the history of modern world from Renaissance to, you can say, the end of Cold War and the rise of unipolar world. In fact, even what is unfolding now in West Asia can also be studied in the history of the Arab world. Means the Arab history can be studied, that is a part of it. But what I do in class is that in the first two classes, I develop a framework to understand the modern world history, because modern world history approach is a bit different from Indian history. Why? Because in Indian history, we deal with the same land and the same civilization, and we follow a chronology: ancient India, early medieval, medieval, early modern, modern. Agreed? So there is a chronology. But in modern world history, we don't deal with a particular civilization or a particular nation. We cover everything. We are in China, Russia, America, France, Germany, Italy, agreed? Europe, Africa, Southeast Asia, Latin America. So it's more like a zigzag. So to connect the dots, what I do is that in the first two classes, I will tell you the framework to understand the flow of history. That okay, how do we deal with modern world history? Why do we start with Eurocentrism? You might notice, agar aap dhyan de, that we say that it is the history of modern world, but a significant portion of history revolves around Europe, and that also Western Europe. This concept is called as Eurocentrism. So we start by understanding that why we follow a Eurocentric approach. Agreed? And then we start with the framework of history. First, we discuss the birth of modernity. Because in history is obviously, I told you in the beginning, history is about story. And in story, we need to have a beginning. In world history also, we need to have a beginning. So the beginning that I do is from the fall of Roman Empire and the Dark Ages in Europe, when the situation in Europe was very, very bad. Again, the story part, समझ रहे हैं? शुरुआत हमेशा कहानी से होगी. And then I will tell you what were the problems, how the mindset of the people changed, how Europeans moved from excessive divine-centric view to human-centric, rise of humanism, Renaissance, Reformation, scientific revolution, enlightenment. So in Europe, before we actually start discussing political change, economic change, social change, we first start with change in the domain of ideas. Before we start with the revolutions in the realm of mankind, we start with revolutions in the domain of ideas. पहले विचारों की क्रांति पढ़ेंगे. Do you understand? Because study of modern world history, that is what Tariq sir was also telling you, that when you study history, you get a lot of philosophy and ideology also. something that you invariably study in other optionals also. Sociology में पढ़ते हैं आप, political science में पढ़ते हैं, some of the thinkers you study in public administration. So here also, because as I told you, the approach is not just narration but interpretation, and interpretation is not just about history or historians, interpretation is about philosophy. American Revolution को कैसे देखा गया? Agreed. Some have seen the American Revolution as an economic development, some have seen the American Revolution as an incomplete revolution. So philosophical approach is important. And why? Because ये अगर समझ लिया, once you have understood this, which is not very difficult, then you will not be too much obsessed with narration. Because अगर ये नहीं है तो फिर आपका सारा फोकस तो इसी पे होगा. So that is why before we start with American Revolution, French Revolution, 19th century European Revolution, Russian revolutions, we start with the ideologies, birth of modernity. तो यूरोपियन हिस्ट्री को पढ़ने का तरीका थोड़ा अलग है, समझ रहे हैं इस बात को, थोड़ा अलग है. एंड वंस वी हैव डन दिस इन द फर्स्ट 7-8 क्लासेस, फिर आपको समझ में आएगा ओके व्हाई वर द अमेरिकन्स फाइटिंग, व्हाट इज द आइडिया ऑफ लिबर्टी, how the idea of liberty in American context is different from the idea of liberty in French context, and how it is different in Marxist context. Then we will see the rise of nations, rise of nationalism. तो मैं वही बता रहा हूं. First I start with intellectual revolution, then we go to political modernity, social modernity, economic modernity, rise of empires. समझ गए इस बात को? And then conflict of empires. शांतिपूर्वक नहीं हुआ. It did not happen in a peaceful manner. There is history को पढ़ने का एक और तरीका है. History is also the study of power struggle. अभी भी चल रहा है. So the beauty of history is that history can be interpreted in multiple ways. And believe me, whether we study or not, everybody likes a bit of history. Everybody. Because we have this tendency to go back to the roots to understand the present. तो यहां पर भी हम वही करेंगे. So the syllabus is not vast. The syllabus has to be understood, chewed and translated in a way. That is why we have devised a program, so that by the time you reach stage 4, you have already narrowed down your syllabus. And in the class I forgot to mention that we get the PYQs done, so that by the time you move to the 4th stage, जहां पे आपका prelims निकल गया है, you are just in the practicing mode, where we will be telling you what are the templates for introduction. वहां पर सिर्फ आपको गाइड करना है. Rohan sir will be taking the medieval India classes. So for now I would not want to get into much detail. जब हम क्लास करेंगे I will tell you. But this is what we are going to follow. समझ में आ गया? यही अप्रोच होता है हिस्ट्री के लिए, whether you do self study or you follow any classroom program. Just give me time, Praveen sir will be joining.
Hello, my name is, many of you are aware, Praveen Dikshit, and we are going to I'll take ancient history. Ancient India. So, this covers prehistory to almost mid of 7th century. Few things which I want to convey to everyone. Whatever class notes I'll give, GS no such promise. In optional it will cover everything. Everything means everything. Although you could read books, that's not a problem for me. But generally if you have to read books, what is the purpose of so many long classes? So whatever will be taught will be asked in exam. And that's 100% guarantee in optional. Generally, you must have heard the books. We will discuss them later. First thing. Second thing, historiography. Historiography is generally very technical term, but it generally means the views of history. For example, a question was asked, which I generally like quoting, 2017. Ashokan inscriptions were based on Ved. Generally, we understand Ashokan inscriptions were based on Buddhism. In 2018, they asked Buddhism was based on Ved. Whatever traditional books we read, it says Buddhism is against Ved. Which is true? Buddhism is against Ved or Buddhism is according to Ved? Any guess? Both. You need to have to write on both. Question comes against Ved, we have to write against Ved. Question comes according to Ved, we write according to Ved. 2009 question is how Buddhism challenged the Ved's Brahmanic patriarchy. They asked Buddhism against Ved, they asked Buddhism according to Ved. That's called historiography. It is nothing but the views of scholars. Every scholar have their own view. For example, if I ask you, you should not ask this question, ki after 2014 India is growing or not growing. So you have to write whatever is asked. And I hope you are aware that a scholar's main idea should be whatever is asked, he should be able to write. So that's called historiography. So it's the views on Indian history. Jaise for example, Vedic religion is Hinduism, sorry, Vedic nahi, Vedic to obviously is Hinduism. Harappan religion is Hinduism, is not Hinduism. So if we have to write Hinduism, we will write the same things in different interpretation. Not Hinduism, the same thing in different interpretation. That is called historiography. It gives you the view of the confidence of the history. Believe me, if you do not know the views of the past, it means you have no idea of the past. So you need to know the views. And there are multiple views, hundreds of views. Jaise, you must have heard Ashokan pillars, where Ashok is telling morality to his people. Be moral. Please tell me, it is a king's personal morality or a king who won everything wants his people to become peaceful so he could consolidate? So what is the better view? It is personal view of Ashok or it is the imperial policy of Ashok? So if I ask you equivalent question of present day, Ashokan pillar is his message of morality to his people. Present day you can compare it with Man Ki Baat, Prime Minister's Man Ki Baat, which he is talking to his people. He is talking what he really feels or he is talking to give some political messages to people. What is the better answer? Both. आपका काम ये चूज करना नहीं. Your job is to write both. वो पूछे political message तो political message. They ask personal view of Prime Minister तो personal views. This is called historiography. First thing. Next, diversity. Diversity. Diversity means a good student is not someone who could go deep in the topic. Good student who could cover the every aspect of the topic. As for example, if I ask you why Indian exports are less, and you started talking Indian exports are less because our industry is poor, an entire answer about Indian industry, no marks for that. You have to write as many things as possible. So as a teacher, it is my job to impart you diversity. It is also diversity views, but other technical topics. Fourth, cover the depth of the subject. Generally, in optional questions are asked on depth. As for example, the example of depth is, they have asked ki how Gupta economy is based on Kushan economy. If you know this, you will be able to do it very easily. Let me give you an equivalent question. Present day politics. Why I am giving this present day example so that you could feel how natural it is. If I ask you that Ram Mandir Andolan is the basis of the rise of political party of present day ruling, so you can easily answer this ki how a temple movement gave rise to it. If you feel the subject, depth of the subject is obvious which you have to do. So that is depth of the subject. Fifth is answer writing. At the last of the day, this is the currency. Currency means if you have knowledge and you can't talk, will you win any debate? So not at all. If you have good knowledge and you can't write answer, there is no chance you could hope for anything in life, especially in exams. Indian exam systems are based on answer writing. Answer writing is more important than talking. Answer writing is more important than reading itself. Reading could be secondary. वैसे तो reading cannot be secondary obviously, but answer writing is the most primary thing. So, someone is asking, history is a long topic, है ना, subject is long. तो भैया समझ ले, optional is equal to GS. Ancient history, medieval history, modern history, world history, art and culture. And let me tell you, GS subject is broader than optional. In GS, question could be asked from anywhere, there is no guarantee of it. In optional, there are guaranteed topics. If any one of you would have seen, so first I give PYQs to students. And you will see PYQs are predictable. Only you need answer writing practice. No need for any book. Whatever class notes will be given to you, that would be more than enough. If anyone has any question, could ask me. कोई सवाल किसी के पास? Who will take medieval classes? Rohan sir, who's not present today. ठीक है. Optional course will cover each and everything of GS. Whatever is in GS will be covered in optional. Next thing, one more thing, which generally students fear about. That is mapping. Generally, I take 10 classes in mapping. Any one of you have heard in optional mapping is also a part. Ab sune. Some students think they are poor in mapping. It's wrong. You are not poor in mapping. You are poor in history subject. Mapping is not a topic. एक चीज बताएं. Let me show you mapping. An IPL team which was very overrated but rarely used to win IPL. सुनो तो. City, which city it is placed in? Bangalore. A city famous for leather sandals. Kolhapur. You know Kolhapur is not exactly here. Exactly have any Kolhapur. But still your answer is right. A city famous for a love monument. Agra. Generally you would see, if you know the thing, you will be able to mark it. A city famous for its color. Jaipur, good. An ancient capital. Patliputra. Mapping is never poor. Mapping is never poor. It is the knowledge of a student which is limited. And that's why he is unable. अब मैं आपसे पूछूं, a Paleolithic tool industry. Atirampakkam. Now tell me, you do not know Atirampakkam or you do not know the mapping of Atirampakkam? You do not know Atirampakkam. आपको Atirampakkam नहीं पता है. It's not कि you know everything about Atirampakkam, then you cannot answer कि अरे where is it? It is rarely happening. In the process of learning, the mental image is according to map. Mental image ही map पे बनती है. जैसे for example, a place which gave its name to an ancient civilization. An ancient civilization is named on this place, Harappa. If you know about Harappa and you know that Indus Valley civilization is named on Harappa, which is in Pakistan, so this is the most obvious choice. And that's why whenever a famous temple newly constructed, Ayodhya, so please remember, mapping is not poor. No background of mine in history. Can I take my optional as history? Majority of the selected students have no background of history. Sometimes I feel it is better that you do not have any background, because the students with background have their own notion. अलग ही दुनिया में रहते हैं, है ना? They live in a separate world. So I don't think it's going to be a problem. Not at all. Majority of engineers and doctors also take this optional and crack it. Majority of the students who get selected, generally you will see, more than half of them do not have any background of history. Because that's the nature of this exam. This exam is not a research. This exam is you should be able to reproduce points on time. Students who have the background of history, they may know some stories, but they are never prompt to remember the points. They think it is too shallow. रटना shallow है. जैसे for example, if I ask you, what is the message of Ashok? अशोक का मैसेज क्या था? तो बैकग्राउंड स्टूडेंट विल टॉक huge things, बड़ी बड़ी बातें करने लगेगा. A non-background student will say truth, compassion. ऐसे बता देता हूं मैं, इंग्लिश छोड़ो. शोचे, सचे, माधवे, साधवे, दाने, अपसिनवे, दया, यूसेबिया, कुसीट एंड डेटा, लॉफुल. Different languages, different message. So here reproduce this. This is what I have told you. Diversity. Tips पे चीज होगी, you will be able to answer. If you can tell me a lot, question asked, what is difference between Rig Vedic and later Vedic age? अब some student will start talking huge things. Another student, tax voluntary, obligatory. King elected, hereditary. Tax less, more. Assembly is strong, weak. Female position good, poor. At the end of the knowledge, I am not saying it is substitute of your understanding, but once you have understanding, you are prompt in remembering the topics. I have seen the only feature characteristic of a good student, that he is interested in remembering these things on tips. Poor student, they are lazy in their thought. No promptness ही नहीं. They think कि हाँ आता है ये. I know this. You know nothing. समझ आई बात? जैसे if I am talking to you, I have chance of talking for half an hour. आधे घंटे में बोलूं. But imagine some senior historians would be sitting here and they ask me how to prepare for history. So I do not have this much time to give them ज्ञान. वहां मुझे को जल्दी बोलना है. Within 1 minute I have to impress them. They will ask me to stop. They will stop taking interest. They will start using their mobile phones. So always have this promptness, which I'll tell you how to get. It's the purpose of our notes. It's the purpose of the notes. And notes are sufficient, more than sufficient. ये तो promise है, more than sufficient. What is the purpose of attending class if you have to read something else? Because the reason is, everything else is too broad. Books are insufficient. Books उतनी sufficient ही नहीं है. Because the reason is the famous books, they are written on materialistic history. They are good in society economy. Question asked by UPSC. Now UPSC is changing their format. They are asking right-wing questions. The right-wing question means, earlier they asked Buddhism is against Hinduism. Now they ask Buddhism is inspired by Hinduism. One question of 2020. Puran were written to make Vedic gods famous. Who are Vedic gods? Any idea? Indra, Mitra, Vayu, Varuna. Who are main gods of Puran? Shiva, Vishnu, Brahma. Question asked how Puran were made to make Vedic gods famous. All our books say Puran are having different god, Veda are having different god. So you will have to go the traditional version of the scholars जो गुरुकुलों में पढ़ाया जाता है. Later Vedic gods are Shiva, Varuna, Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu. Rudra Ashtadhyayi is in Yajurveda. These gods are also Vedic god. ये भी Vedic god है. And these Vedic gods are made famous in Puran. So majority of books do not cover this. That's why, just telling you, if you have to cover all the aspects, इसको कहते हैं historiography. That is our duty, obviously. Many other things must have been told to you by the teachers. If you have any doubt, you can ask. ऐसा करो, उनको बुला ही लो.
मेरे पास है, I do have. So if you have any question, please do ask. And let's start. For prelims, somebody is asking, I think we have discussed that history is going to help you in multiple ways. And certainly in prelims, out of 100 question, around 18 to 22, that means 20 on an average they do ask. So if you're good in few papers like history, like geography, like polity, your chances of clearing prelims is very high. And that is how, because history is, please come, history is very, static, predictable. So that is one question. So you can take that question. Notes are sufficient.
Notes are more than sufficient. I have told them, I have taken this. Notes are more than sufficient. And if there is no point of taking class if you have to read something else, although if you are interested, you could read, that's not a problem. Notes will be more than enough.
Chandraban, you take the third question.
क्या third question है?
Do we need to NCRT?
NCRT,
For prelims.
we suggest doing NCRTs. Why? Because NCRTs are written in a very coherent manner, very lucid narration, as I said. That at least class 11, 12 NCRTs are very good. Even for optional also, we recommend students that why not to read. It's not a very voluminous thing. Yes, obviously we discourage that to read from class 6 to class 12. That is not required. But class 11, 12, even in world history, I suggest that contemporary world history, that is by Arjun Dev, is an excellent book. You should read. Never ignore it. At least the old NCRTs you should read for all sections. 4 NCRT पढ़ने में कितना time लगेगा?
And I have one example also. UPSC want you to read government published book. For example, 9 Ratna of Chandragupta Vikramaditya, Navaratna. R.S. Sharma mentioned only 2 of them. Amar Simha, Kalidas. UPSC asked only those 2. There are 4 units of measurement in Gupta age. Adhyavap, Kulyavap, Dronavap, Nivartan. R.S. Sharma mentioned only 2. Adhyavap, Kulyavap, or Kulyavap or Dronavap. UPSC asked only those 2. It means they want you to read some books, especially government published books. So they also value government published books more than private publishers. So they want to convey this thought to you that these are the standards books, government published books. Sorry, is it sufficient time for 2000?
Is it sufficient time for
It is the earliest.
2027? But it depends upon when you started. 2027 is too long. So anybody who is starting from today onwards, you have enough time for 2027 prelims.
6 months is more than sufficient if you prepare in the manner which is required. Otherwise, no time is sufficient. People, if they understand and they follow the structure that we suggest them, then 1 year of exclusive preparation will bring you very close to the level. Then the answer writing and other aspects are there. Agreed? So this is very, very important that please, it is a myth that you have to spend so many years. People do get top rank after few years because even they say that yes, we did not realize these things in our GS optional answer writing. So that is why time is taken, but that is why a course is there. Just telling you so that from day one you are on the right track. Because in UPSC it is important to know what to read, how to read, and more than that what not to do. Agreed? For those people who are coming to somebody who's coming to Delhi on 15th May, I think we have a course in June also.
Yeah.
So June में join कीजिए आप.
And if you want, you can start online and then.
हाँ, you can start online now and you can switch to offline later.
Tamil Nadu history books, good sir. Tamil Nadu is good. But certain books you should read, as Parveen Sahab said it, published by Government of India. The reason is this, that the faculty who prepares your questions, they also refer union government's books or publication. They cannot read 28 states department and their books. So it could be very risky. So it's always better that you refer centrally published books, like publication division also publishes called gazetteer, but you can't read it. We will give you notes based on various materials, right? Okay,
What's
what
the
is the
highest
highest score on one can achieve?
500.
Out of 500, 300 you can achieve, because many of our students have achieved. And what I know that in every subject you can achieve 300, depending upon few things: your understanding of the subject, then your ability to express in writing. This is what we all said, that how in the next few months you have to work. So do not have this illusion that a subject makes you topper. Students make that subject top. And if you just scan last 40 years UPSC success rate in top 100, top 20, all subjects are represented. And often a myth, somebody was asking, the success rate 4%, 5%, it should not be seen by percentage. It should be seen number also. Now suppose you took a paper called chemistry, one candidate took in main and he passed, success rate is 100%. But in history, suppose 1000 candidate took it and total 50 passed. So the number 50 is more important, because when 50 students are getting cleared, you have more chance rather than one student.
And history is a generic subject. From tier 2 and 3 towns, students take generally history and geography type of subjects, which gave them the bad percentage. Tier 2, 3 town, no one takes this mathematics or anthropology. Will teach anthropology there. So tier 2, 3 towns, whoever thinks I have to
And that is good for you, because now your competition is like India A team with India C team in cricket. So you are having India A team coaching. So you can easily beat those numbers who are plenty, right?
To get a top rank, see, there are multiple things required. First of all, you should have good scores across your GS, fine, essay.
CSAT.
मतलब prelims पहले निकालिए. True. And then for history optional, generally this time the people who have scored in the top 100, I saw the marks, even the girl who got 56th rank, 59th rank. So 280 to 300 is considered to be very good. So you should not aim for something out of the blue. You should try to get out of that median zone, जो एक problematic zone होता है जिससे students नहीं निकल पाते, that is 240 to 260. उससे बाहर निकलना है. Do you understand? And then, as sir said, that first thing is that any subject which helps you to clear prelims is the first frontier. And yes, anybody from not a history background can also do it, as sir has said, it is a generic.
They do better.
They do better.
Because they take it only point wise. The one who have knowledge of history, they go into the debates of history and start enjoying the subject. The one who have less knowledge, he is more cautious, he remembers the points much better.
Yes, you people ask some questions.
All
clear?
So we'll see you in the classroom program.
Okay, thank you,
And,
all the best.
thank
Take
you.
care.
All of you.
Bye-bye.